Queen Mother Harriet Tubman speaks. God's time is near. He set the North Star in the heavens. He gave me the strength in my limbs. He meant I should be free. Harriet Tubman. Queen Mother Harriet was known by many titles. To her people, she was a Moses, deliverer, and friend. To abolitionist supporters, she was the most efficient conductor of the Underground Railroad. To the U.S. government, she was a military scout, spy, and cook. To the Union soldiers injured in battle and other sick men, she was a nurse, healer, and medicine provider. To John Brown the Revolutionary, she was General Tubman. But to her parents, siblings, nephews, and nieces, she was simply a daughter, sister, and aunt. Yet, her enemies called her a fugitive and placed a large bounty on her head. They sought her capture, dead or alive, for doing her divine work. Posthumously, I want to endow her with 2 more titles. First, I crown her from this day forward a master practitioner of divine health. She exemplified the important link between divine health and the fulfillment of one's divine purpose. Second, I recognize Queen Mother Harriet's historic and unprecedented mastery of the 4 elements, and I crown her as the first Queen Mother of Transphysics, for she is a most excellent example of putting transphysics into practice. With her immeasurable contributions to health, freedom, and justice, she showed enslaved people a path to self-emancipation and gave the Union Army a strategic advantage over the Confederate military during the Civil War. Although Queen Mother Harriet was born into slavery, she was never enslaved in her mind or spirit. The life she lived, though extremely painful, was an extraordinary one filled with humanity, miracles, and unprecedented heroic activity. On the other hand, one could argue that her life was equally filled with trouble, trauma, horrific experiences, and unspeakable suffering. In fact, I would propose that there is a small misleading dash inscribed on her humble tombstone in upstate New York between the date of her birth and her death. This insulting little dash does little to convey the true magnitude or impact of her life. The small dash does little justice towards shedding light on her knowledge, skill, and gift for healing and liberating others with the 4 elements: air, fire, earth, and water. The contribution she made in terms of her skills and divine knowledge could not be measured in numbers, but through the resilience of her race today. It was her unparalleled knowledge of the 4 elements and self-discipline, coupled with her faith in the Most High, that allowed her to accomplish what no one else has in all of recorded history. She freed 300 living men, women, and children from the clutches of chattel slavery. For us, daughters of the Most High, there is no debate over the number of people she saved. We are aware, however, that some now propose that we question this number based on the purported limitations of the evidence. In their arrogance, those who do question the number merely insult the integrity of 2 upright figures in history, namely Queen Mother Harriet Tubman and Sarah Bradford. The former is the subject of the book Harriet Tubman, the Moses of Her People. She is the ancestor who provided the figures, background information, and other historical data. The latter is Sarah Bradford, the author of the book, and Queen Mother Harriet's confidant, colleague, and friend. Therefore, the book written by Bradford should be the primary source of all credible knowledge about the life and works of Queen Mother Harriet Tubman. Children, authenticity is everything. If we let our minds become slaves to the media and censorship, we will be practically erasing the contributions that our people made in what was arguably the most difficult time in world history. With the book that I am writing for you today, I am acknowledging and immortalizing the contributions Queen Mother Harriet Tubman made through the use of trans physics in freeing herself and people. This zeal, this passion towards our culture, our history, and where we come from is something that I also hope to pass on to you. The book that I was referring to initially reveals the immeasurable contributions Queen Mother Harriet Tubman made to this nation. The depth of her knowledge about the elements and effectiveness of her medical treatments were irrefutable. Her superior survival skills, war tactics, and strategies remain unprecedented. Yet the world commonly makes the mistake of asserting she received no education. As an enslaved person, circumstances and laws made it illegal for her to learn to read. But from our perspective, as traditional healers and custodians of oral tradition, she was highly educated. Therefore, beautiful daughters, I pray that after reading this book, you will never make this common mistake. Queen Mother Harriet Tubman was arguably one of the highest forms of intelligence during her time, which explains her massive successes serving as a spy, scout, nurse, cook, and general during the Civil War. An expert in the field of espionage, who often crossed into enemy territory undetected, she came face to face with slave patrollers and even the very man who declared himself the owner of her flesh. On one occasion, she had just purchased food at an open market when she saw him approaching. With cunning skill and quick thinking, she pretended to chase a chicken she intentionally let escape from her grip. This tactic proved to be successful. She remained undetected, safely returning to feed her entourage of the self-emancipated. Her war skills were another constant source of brilliance. She even led 3 Union gunboats in the famous 1863 Combahee River raid, freeing 700 enslaved people from a life of bondage on South Carolina plantations. Queen Mother Harriet Tubman's education effectively began when she was afforded the rare opportunity to hone and develop nature skills. As a teen, she was sent to work with her father, Mr. Benross, who made his living as an expert timber inspector. The lumberjack trade required him to spend much of his time in the deep woods, living off the land, navigating through forests, fields, and wading through waterways. He passed his knowledge, skill, and intellectual gifts along to his daughter. Mr. Ross's training proved vital to Queen Mother Harriet Tubman, whose career as a conductor on the Underground Railroad was steeped in navigating through thick jungles, rugged terrains, and difficult surroundings. With her father, she mastered practical uses of things occurring naturally in the material world. Queen Mother Harriet Tubman also acquired highly specialized skills like how to interpret the movement of the stars, recognize phases of the moon, predict weather patterns, study the tracks of wildlife, make medicine from plants, extract sap from trees, and identify cherry and dogwood trees in order to use their bark for a wide range of medicinal and other purposes. During this time, she also learned strategies for wilderness survival, like foraging for food and recognizing poisonous plants from edible ones. Spirituality and self-discipline were instilled in her by her father as well. He taught her to be an abstemious eater. They fasted religiously together every Friday. From her mother, Queen Mother Harriet Tubman also received a solid education and lessons on how to be resourceful through cooking. Mrs. Ross was the chief cook for the plantation owners and the enslaved. She possessed a vast knowledge of plants, herbs, and natural combinations of these ingredients for food, teas, and healing medicine as well. From her, Queen Mother Harriet Tubman developed the skills of identifying, selecting, and preparing edible plants for consumption. She developed mastery in the rich resources of edible plants like sassafras, black cherry, and pawpaw, but was keenly aware of the fact that all things green were not safe to eat. My beloved grandchildren, could it also be possible that Queen Mother Harriet Tubman learned from her mother the practice used by so many other enslaved people who dared to self-emancipate of placing dried Indian turnip in their shoes or around their feet